Drug usage is unfortunately a huge problem among teenagers and young adults, with around 50% of teenagers having misused a drug at least once, according to the NCDAS. Today, we're talking about this with Nandini Raman, who quit a very exciting career in the marketing and media promotions department of international music major labels Sony and Universal Music, working with the likes of A.R. Rahman, Shakira, Jennifer Lopez, Diana King, Ricky Martin, just to name a few of them, to become a counseling psychologist, which just amazing, really. A corporate trainer, a mentor, and a columnist with The Hindu, a news publication in India. So welcome, Ms. Raman, to one of our most important episodes, Addiction and Abuse.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Aaron. Just completely my pleasure.
Great having you here. So our first question is, why, in your opinion, are teenagers so vulnerable to addictions and drug abuse?
I think first and foremost, it's really about the peer influence or the peer pressure, right? I think there's something about I want to be cool and hey, you know what, I have done this. And it's almost a speaking point in the community. So I think a lot of it is just peer influence, and a lot of young adults and, adolescent, late teens actually start with just experimenting. And to add to that, I think sometimes there's a lot of stress that's coming from home. There's a lot of dysfunctionality. Sometimes they're coming from broken homes. A lot of turbulence, if I can really call it that, I think the teens have it really, really hard because they pretty much grow up with mixed signals and mixed communication, right? So sometimes the parents say, hey, you're old enough, you should be doing this on your own. And the minute they do something, then they turn around and say, but you're still too young. So I think they are also on crossroads, and they're not able to understand what is appropriate and inappropriate behavior. Having said that, I think when they are going through something and when they're really in a vulnerable spot, I think that's when it becomes really tricky. So something that starts as a mere experimentation can actually spiral into becoming an addiction or a dependent habit. And I think that is what's most scary about addiction and substance misuse and abuse. In addition to that, I think there's also, scientifically, there's a theory where the adolescent brain is still developing, and which is why at 18 you're not an adult, but at 21 you are, because the frontal lobe of the brain, right, which is pretty much the forehead region, is still growing and developing. And this region is actually responsible for decision making, for being able to actually respond and not react. So I think there's also there have been so many instances where they are really, really guilty. They don't see the consequences when they are actually dabbling with stuff, be it alcohol, drugs, or other substances. And then I think they make irrational decisions, and they are not able to self-regulate, which is again something which actually can spiral into an addiction or a really unhealthy habit. So yeah, I think and I also believe that teenagers love to live on the high risk zone. So it's almost like you defy me and you say no, I'm going to make sure I do this. So I think there's also that urgency to become an adult and experiment and experience adult behaviors. But of course, they are still very, very young, and they don't know how to deal with the consequences when things go south.
In your opinion, ma'am, if someone is tempted to smoke or, shoot up or, pop a pill of some sort, what should they tell themselves to stop them from using or getting addicted to the substance?
I think first and foremost, there's a lot of education, awareness. I think talks like this, sessions at school, sessions among their peer groups is so, so, so important, right? Because I think it's all about giving them appropriate information. It's not about tying your teenagers down. but it's about equipping them with knowledge, informing them about consequences, telling them how this substance actually goes and messes with your physiological system, be it the liver or, be it the brain. I mean, a lot of these drugs actually impair not just functioning of the brain or decision making at that time, but after prolonged usage as secondary symptoms. You could actually have hallucinations, you could be completely delusional, you could have so many things, and these kind of damages don't really get fixed and repaired very quickly. So I think it's about really sensitizing the youth out there and saying that, I understand, yeah, there is sometimes a need to experiment. But I think with substances, it is such a fine line from just using it recreationally and getting dependent on them and it becoming a habit, you know? So I think awareness is really, really powerful.
In your opinion, what are the red flags that a child is using a substance or is addicted to a substance? And secondly, is there a way to teach parents to react to learning this information with kindness and support rather than anger, threats, and even disownment when they
Right.
discover that the children are
Yeah.
addicted?
I really like the second part of your question because I think in all my work that I have done with young adults and late teens, I think it's always about the parent. It's about sensitizing the parent that why is your child doing what he is doing? What is the need for him that he's trying to fulfill by using these behaviors and, dabbling with these mechanisms to cope? So I think also the thumb rule working with be it students, children, young adults, adolescent, it's always about the parents. So these sensitization lectures and counseling sessions with the parents, that you need to learn to be a friendly parent. You don't need to be a friend. So I have a lot of parents who say, oh, I'm his best friend. He does not need you to be his best friend, because you know what, you're still about 30 years elder to him, and you're not going to get into his zone, and you're not going to be the coolest dad or the coolest mom. But can you be a friendly parent? Can you
Exactly.
empathize with,
Yeah.
yeah, can you just empathize with what his story is, that what, he got dumped, he got rejected, or he's not doing well academically, or he is not going to be the engineer that you want, or he's not going to take up architect, or he's not going to be a doctor. I mean, so I think it's very important to be able to talk to parents to get them to accept their children first and foremost. But answering the first part of your question, I think signs and symptoms is again something which parents find out sadly when the child is really hooked onto it, you know, because like I said, the spiraling can happen very quick, especially with drugs, not so much with alcohol. But with drugs, it's almost like it just really zips. So you'd see behaviors like either they're like completely zoned out, they will just disengage, they'll not want to hang out with the family, they will not want to share things, excessive sleep or lack of sleep, anger, tantrums, mood swings, academic performances all over the place, not motivated, no hobbies, interests. So all these behaviors is something that the parent needs to be hands on, clued in. you know it's not something that just happens one fine day that the child wakes up and says, oh, guess what, yeah, I've been abusing marijuana for a bit. So, and I think that again goes back to your second part of the question, which is how much time do you actually spend with your children? And I see a lot of guilt with parents when, even when I'm counseling, because they believe that if I can be a Santa Claus to my child and I can buy them the iPhones and the iPads and all the Apple goodies, I'm a good parent. It's not about the brands, it's not about the materialistic stuff. It is about filling their emotional need. And how is my child coping with whatever it is that he's finding a difficulty with? So it's not about just hanging out with your child all the time. It's about quality time. But what kind of a secure bond, a secure attachment can you actually get the child to experience when he or she is with you? that, he knows that, whatever happens, and, when stuff goes down, I know that, my mother or my father is my go-to person, or I know that they are here to bail me out, and if you're able to really build that beautiful relationship with our children, I think our children also grow up as secure adults,
Right.
so
Right.
yeah.
So, say that there's someone who's off to college in the next year, right?
Mhm.
For instance, even myself, right? What should someone who doesn't have a support system, like who's independent now, what should they do? What should they tell themselves in order to avoid doing or
Yeah, I
getting
think
addicted to
so. I
substances?
think one is, the education and the awareness of what experimentation can lead to. But more importantly, Aryan, I really feel it's about developing healthy recreational activities. It's not about you being a nerd and, you doing 20 courses in the first semester. No, but, what are the other hobbies, and what are the other things that you want to do with your time and space? Do you want to volunteer? Is there something that, interests you? Is there an internship that you want to explore? Are there different communities that you want to be a part of? There is so much that a child can do, and trust me, this generation is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I think sometimes they are just so eager to, kind of live the life, that they don't want to wait to become adults, and I see this also with sexual experimentation. So the point is that every one of you is going to grow up into a healthy adult. So what is the urgency? But can you identify sports, or can you identify debates, or, I don't know, some creative writing, music, learn an instrument, a new language? There's so much that you can go and explore. But somewhere, how do you feel about yourself? And I think a lot of it is also about your core self-esteem. That, do I feel good in my own skin, irrespective of my bestie using drugs, or, abusing alcohol? It's all right, it's okay, but the substance does not define me. Can I have fun without substances? Can I still find my high without, being hooked onto any substance? And I think it's doable, absolutely.
What would you say about the accessibility of these types of substances? How accessible would you say they are in India today?
Yeah, so I can talk only about India because I live here, and I think it's really, really, it's really accessible. It's, I mean, being peddled and sold right outside your school, and as cheap as about what, 20-30 bucks INR. Okay, so children actually get money from home, saying, there's this chocolate that this uncle sells, or there's this toffee I want to eat. And, parents are just clueless. Parents don't know what's going on. And slowly but steadily, this child is actually developing an addiction and getting hooked on. So there is, something called, I think, Cool Mint or something. And it really tastes like menthol, but you put it under your tongue, and then, then the kick comes in. And there are so many young adults, especially in grade 11 and 12, when they're 17, 18, and they're dabbling with this kind of stuff. So it's really scary, right? Because when you send your child to school, you think he's safe, and nothing can go wrong at school. But you have these peddlers who are right at the school. And in college, of course, it's crazy, because especially if your child needs to leave home and, live in a boarding or a hostel or a PG, you don't know what's going on, and you don't know what are the kinds of influences, who's trying to actually be the role model and teach your child a trick or two in
Yeah,
being cool,
yeah.
right?
No, that must be like scary for you as a
It
parent, you
is.
know?
It is. So, in fact, my daughter is also leaving for college. And I keep telling her, just make sure your clicks are clean, because you don't want to be a place where you don't know them too well, and then there's like crazy stuff going on, and then there are raids, and then you get caught. And the price that you got to pay for it is not something that you even can conceive in your head, when you just dress up and go out for a party. or you go out, drinking or clubbing, or you just want to go and have some pure, unadulterated fun. But this is not something that you bargain for.
Can we talk about other addictions, like not like other than drugs and alcohol?
Yeah. So the other biggest thing, Aryan, I think after the pandemic has been gadget addiction, right? And I think it's not just the teens. I think even the adults and the super senior adults are guilty of. The other addiction, of course, is pornography. So there's like a huge segment that's hooked onto pornography as well.
So you'd say that that's a huge problem for most youth today, then, facing these different types of new addictions that have sort of popped up over the last few years.
Yeah, and I really feel, Aryan, the reason that kids do what they do is because they do not have adults who are willing to have those conversations, to talk to them about puberty, to talk to them about masturbation, to talk to them about, is it okay, is it not okay? And I think in the Indian culture, we also have so much that we tell the girls when they come of age, but nobody talks to the boys. So the
Yeah.
boy does not know that, okay, dude, I'm changing, I can see my stuff is growing now. What is it that I need to do with it? How do I deal with it? And it is the discomfort of the parents to have these conversations, which actually need to be normalized. And it's okay if the parents can't have these conversations. You have specialists who are willing to do these talks. But are the schools willing to have engagements like that? Are parents willing to get a group set up to actually discuss stuff like this? And it's very important, Arun, to personalize that communication. I feel sad, I feel rejected, I feel not cared for, I feel I don't know what it is, but I don't feel good about myself. I want to go and see a counselor.
And it's really important to make, mental health and mental health education more accessible to the community.
Normalize it and make it accessible.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for answering these questions.
Yeah.
For being on the show.
I look forward to our series, Arun, because I think there's so much that is out there. And I think I really, really appreciate your efforts to make this very accessible for your age group and for your community, and I think
thank you.
Students and teens out there need to know that help is always available. It's just a click away.